Well, welcome back to the From the Heads Desk podcast. I'm really excited about today's show because we have not only the venerable Mr. Johnson, but 6 of his outstanding students. And let me just set the stage here a little bit. This past Monday, I had the opportunity to hear 3 of his AP language classes pitch some ideas to ways they had to make St. Stephen's even better. And I have to tell you, after these presentations, I really was truly blown away. There's 3 things that came away: their professionalism, their thoughtfulness, and the seriousness with which they take this. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with this Johnson and students today to kind of let you understand the innovative thinking and the thoughtful work that they're doing in AP. So with that complete, Ms. Johnson, let me just start by saying that you, as a humble man, you said, well, I don't deserve credit. This project's been going on for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of the project?
I can. So this project's been going on for at least 20 years. And so if there's other alum who are listening to this podcast, I'm sure plenty of them have experienced this project themselves. So it began about 20 years ago with Miss Nadia Watts. It was carried on by Scott Hertrick and Just Brought Us, and now me. And some key folks that have really kept the integrity and the heart of this project going have been Ms. Palmer as our librarian and director of research, and now Mr. Carlson as our librarian. And through all of those years, they've allowed to keep the heart of the project the same. So we start each year with this idea that we want to identify a problem or an opportunity within our school and propose a positive, effective, and feasible change. And that's what we get. And then we begin brainstorming, with discussing, and a little bit of arguing, and trying to figure out what we're going to do. Then they start the research and digging in and finding out, all right, what's out there and what can we do. And by the end, they come up with a Rogerian style argument. There's a 15-page or more academic paper and a proposal, and then about a 15 or 20-minute presentation that they present to the head of school and other administration.
No, thanks. Yeah, and it really was impressive. I enjoyed it a great deal. And one thing some people might say is, well, wait, I thought this was an AP language class. This doesn't seem to be really connected to that test or what a student would be doing in that class. Is that true? And more importantly, what are the skills and the habits of mind and the talents you're trying to reinforce with this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the AP language and composition exam is all about rhetorical analysis. And it's about rhetorical strategies, how to argue, thinking about purpose and audience, and having good, sound, logical reasoning. But our class, even as a whole, and this project specifically, goes way beyond that. Because what we're doing is we're trying to teach our folks how to become academics, how to become academic writers with voice and incorporating research and doing correct citations, and then working collaboratively together. And all the while, we are using rhetorical strategies. We are learning how to argue. We're thinking about purpose and audience, and we're using sound reasoning. And so it's taking kind of the skeleton of the AP exam and class, but then fleshing it out into something that is real and robust and way beyond a 3.5-hour exam. And that this is something that, like, maybe the best part of this project is that it's real. Like, they're talking to real people and it can have real consequences, and what they do matters. And I think that that's one of the best parts about this, is that it's students doing things that matter.
Yeah, that's really well said. And let's hear from the students, because one of the things that they do is they speak best to the projects that they came up with. So I don't know who wants to step up first, but if you would, just introduce yourself briefly. Just tell us who you are and what your project's all about.
Yeah, I'm Sanjay Dasar. I'm a junior at the school, and I have been working with my peers to develop a Falcon portal, which we propose would connect alumni and parents to students looking for work experience, or even just to talk to an alumni and get a sense of the field they work in and if it would be something that interests them.
I'm Julie Harris. I am a junior at St. Stephen's, and coming up with the idea for this project was honestly simple for us. As we were walking through the halls, we just saw all these great pictures of alumni, and we just wanted a way to connect our alumni even furthermore back to our school and create that sense of community St. Stephen's is about.
Yeah, that's perfect. And you guys are so thoughtful and crisp about how you articulated that. It's one of the things I noticed in class. Let's hear from another group on what your project was.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Khan. I'm also a junior at St. Stephen's. We proposed a media program. We already have kind of the gauntlet that covers journalism and video, like production. But I don't know, we just thought it'd be kind of cool if we made a new program where students could explore this new idea of, well, podcasting, news, like making the news or newspapers or having new equipment to really just expand on their ideas of video production.
My name is Jackson Rife. I'm a junior at St. Stephen's, and yeah, just pretty much what he said, making a media production class and following the ideas, just following the passions of people. Um, it was actually pretty hard first to choose this project, but right next door we had the gauntlet next door, and we looked into our class at one time, and every single one of them was writing interesting papers and trying to make cool videos, but it really felt like they lacked the necessities needed to make amazing videos. And we already have a top gauntlet website. Uh, yeah, we already had a top gauntlet website, so enhancing the media production and making good stories and digital storytelling. Also, the visual production was big for all of that.
Yeah, thanks. And one of the things that's clear to me, and we'll hear from our last group in a moment, is all of these things are accretive. That is to say, they're building on good work that's already been done. That's exciting to me for a lot of reasons. And I know you had some thoughts about how to improve the physical space of the school.
Hi, I'm Sophia Iruli, and my class proposed the conversion of the upper school commons into a space known as the landing. So the commons currently is very empty, very barren, and we propose placing more furniture like tables, couches, and other study materials so that we could foster greater intergrade level connection as well as different spaces for group collaboration.
Yeah, so my name is Sawyer Gerges, and for our period 5 acre lang project, we kind of started with the idea to make this area where students could hang out in the commons. And so we kind of started with, looking at our school's promise that every child would be known and valued. And so we kind of decided to think from there, how can we foster student connection and better our student life on campus through this new student space.
Yeah, thanks, Sawyer. And beyond the promise, which every one of you spoke to actually, about how this allows our students to be even more known and even more valued. A number of you connected this to the Falcon's journey. Just a reminder for our listeners, that's the concept that every student during her or his experience at St. Stephen's will have a signature achievement, something that's built on their passions and interests, but also on long-term kind of evolution of their talents, their abilities, their habits, and probably something that had they not come here, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. So I'm just kind of interested, going back to your projects, how did you see that signature piece or that passion piece playing out in what you shared the other day?
Yeah, so just like Mr. Kraft said, the idea to pursue a passion beyond the classroom. And I know for me, coming from a bigger middle school, coming to St. Stephen's allowed for me to become more academic focused. It just felt like I was more cared for at the school by the teachers because I had less and smaller classrooms. And I actually got to know a lot more people through collaboration and just more people integrated with my friends. And we all saw this passion in the golf. Each one of them was dressing up in weird, hats and sunglasses and just going outside and trying to make the best of videos what they can with the stuff that they had. We went into further in the project by using Hyatt Sumbar. He was a big soccer player at Jesuit High School. We got this information from Mr. Finch in the middle school. And Hyatt Sumbar, pretty much, he didn't really have a passion. It wasn't the greatest kid in school, but he found this passion through making the school newspaper and just going out and filming these and making these newspapers that allowed for him to get a creative bone. And this really just showed his passion beyond the classroom and what he allowed. So we felt like making this media production class really enhanced not only the gauntlet, but just give people more ability to show their creativity, having a project-based learning through digital storytelling.
Yeah, I like that. And that digital storytelling piece I thought was really rich. And it's one of the things that comes through in all your projects is this notion of telling a story, giving people that voice. And one of the things I really appreciated was that this isn't something that only a select few get to do. The vision of this Falcon Steering is that everybody at some point will have this opportunity. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the Falcon portal and how you think that allows the student to have this type of signature achievement and really run with their passions.
Well, I think the Falcon Portal is great for students that want to build off of their own passions because our alumni are very impressive. And it's one thing that the school always likes to mention is what our alumni have done, where they've gone. And so for a student to connect with someone who they envision they want to be in their future could be very valuable for the student to not only learn from, but also for the mentor to connect back to St. Stephen's and give a student who is in their shoes that experience and that exposure to a career field which they otherwise might not have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing I'd love to explore a little bit with the folks that talked about the landing, you talked about student wellness, and you really made a convincing case. One could look at your proposal and say, oh, this is a hangout space. But you really explained to me, I thought very thoughtfully, how way beyond that. So you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the mental health and student wellness part was actually my primary responsibility in the writing piece. And so, just with, again, reminding us that our promise is that our students will be valued. What do we as students take value from? And I think a lot of it on this campus is the connection that we build with each other. And just from a little bit of research, you can honestly find a lot of studies that have shown. I know there's a study that we found from the South China Institute of Technology where studies have shown everything that goes into the design of third spaces, like the architectural design to the color palettes they use to the lighting even. Everything can affect how students perform and how they can grow in these spaces. And it's actually a really interesting piece to read because the whole the landscape of these spaces can be really beneficial.
You're fuck.
To add on to that, the ability to have multiple third spaces to choose from allows students to find a space in which they are comfortable in to both study and as well as to relax. And having the option to move from place to place gives the student a sense of freedom as well as their own way to set up their own study plans and their own schedule in a pace or in a manner that is, just easy for them to adjust to and adapt to, and where they'll actually benefit because there's not one set way for one student to study or to learn or to behave in a set environment.
Yeah, that's well said. And, we're a college preparatory school. And so one of the things that we take most seriously beyond our promise and beyond the concept of Falcon's journey is preparing young people to really excel in college. And I can tell you, having a daughter in college myself, the type of work that you're describing is exactly what she's doing. She's being asked to research, write, and articulate sophisticated thoughts. So if you're a parent or an alum and you're listening to this podcast, a question I hope you're asking is, well, how might I help? So let's start with the folks with the Falcon portal. If someone's listening and wants to, be part of the kickoff of this, what are some of the ways they might do that?
Well, first of all, we would love to get your participation in our project so that we can connect students to you guys and they can get that real internship experience. But one of the ways that you might want to reach out to us is contacting Mr. Johnson or Mr. Carlson or me, Julie, or Sanjay about being interested in the project. We've already had a couple of alums, such as Joe Snyder, who said that he would be interested in working with us so that he can help students.
And we know that an internship might not be in the cards for everyone, but we also value just a few minutes on a Zoom call would really be beneficial to our students. And furthermore, maybe a reference to someone that works locally if you're not in the Bradenton area. That would really help our students a lot as well. So anything you can provide for us, doesn't have to be an internship or work opportunity, would really be beneficial for our students.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll put some of this contact information in the email that comes alongside this. One of the things that we talk about when I think about the Falcon sharing is it's scaffolded. Maybe a ninth grader's not ready to do this kind of internship, and maybe they are, but they are ready to jump on a Zoom call and talk to a doctor or a lawyer or a mechanic or somebody and say, "What's your job like? And what can I learn from you?" So that's exciting. How about this digital and media storytelling? This is something that obviously a lot of people might say, "Well, I can't help with that," but in some ways, I bet you they can. I'm just wondering thoughts you might have.
Well, honestly, I agree. There's a lot of things that a lot of people can do that are listening. Well, first off, if you're a writer, like a newspaper writer, or you write for fun, you can just help out. There's just experience beyond like what we're able to provide. Like parents can get lend experience to us. And also it goes even as far as just simple donations because we want to provide the best equipment we can for our students to create these high quality videos or high quality newspapers. So
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Let's popcorn around a little bit. When I use that term, what I mean is people can kind of answer a question in somewhat rapid fire. So the first question, I'm going to combine a couple, but what'd you take away from this project and what'd you particularly enjoy? Sorry, you want to go first?
Well, I'll definitely talk about what I enjoyed. I think one of the most enjoyable parts of this project for me was our kind of mock trial of what a student space would look like. Mr. Johnson and his family helped set up a bunch of sofas and couches in the commons, and we could see how students used it. And students were they were very eager about using the space. And so I think that seeing student responses was really motivating, as well as seeing teachers. We had a lot of approval and excitement coming from the faculty too about this project before we presented it. So I think there was a lot of, I think those responses gave a lot of boost to our team.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was very clever how you test drove at first to see how it might be used. And short version was it's pretty robustly used. What others? What'd you take away? What'd you enjoy?
Yeah, I'd agree with Sawyer. The feedback we got from teachers with the alumni portal was pretty remarkable. And many teachers said that they'd love to connect back with students they've had in the past to catch up with them and kind of come back to them and kind of see how they've been doing. One other thing we were really excited about while working with it was when we were trying to identify a problem, we kind of realized how much our school already has. We realized that there's so much that we have, and it was really hard for us to pick a point that we thought we could improve because obviously, like Mr. Johnson mentioned earlier, this project has been done for 20 years, and for 20 years, people have been thinking, what can we improve? What can we make better? So I think every year is going to be tougher and tougher for people to find something to want to improve on the campus or with the structure of the school.
Yeah, Sanjay, I love that because a lot of what the work you're doing for those who are experienced is kind of a design thinking orientation. It's a end user orientation. And one of the things that you build off of is empathy. So I love the fact that part of your takeaway was an acknowledgement and recognition of how blessed we are to be here. Because you can still look to improve things and have the appreciation that you're blessed to have these opportunities. I think it's a really important distinction. One last question, and anybody who wants to jump in can, including you, Mr. Johnson. At the end of the day, whether we are able to do this right away, or perhaps it takes a little longer, or maybe it never is fully implemented, what do you hope the impact of this project, your project in particular, might be on the school?
For me, I think the biggest thing that I took away from this and I want other kids to learn is that you don't have to be creative. You can discover creativity. And with our media program, even though it's not probably going to be implemented in the next couple years, this idea of the media program isn't just focused for creative minds. It's really opening the door for students who aren't creative, and it gives them the opportunity to make something they're proud of. And that was the biggest thing that we built off of.
Yeah, interesting. Or they don't see themselves yet as creative. I think that word "yet" matters a lot as a learner.
For us with the landing, what we really hope to foster is just greater connection between students because typically high school, you tend to stick with your grade or you stick with your friends, but we hope that the implementation of the space will help people to connect with others who they may not have originally, as well as just providing students with just another safe place for them to be themselves, to learn, and to just enjoy themselves.
When I think about this project and about the impact these projects are going to have on the school, the first thing I think of is how the impact of the project itself impacts students, and that every student that is involved in this, that it changes them in the way that they're able to think about research and argument, but it's not just something that's done in the academic world for school, but it's doing it for real life. Whether my son, for his senior project in college, just had to do basically a presentation just like we did in his major of statistics. This is what people do in boardrooms all the time. This is how people pitch ideas. And so the impact on the students themselves is probably first. But then in terms of how it impacts our school, it's like you already said, Mr. Kraft, the idea of the promise and the mission that all of these projects, when they're implemented, that they will make us a more connected and caring community, that they'll promote academic growth and excellence, and that the idea that we're always trying to do this every year is like we're a part of a growth mindset, that it's not just something we ask our students to do, but our school itself is always trying to grow. And really, and for me now being the fourth teacher doing this, I get to be part of this legacy, but every one of my students is now a part of the legacy. And when they can see the project that they've done being implemented years and years into the future, they feel that they're real forever Falcons, that this is something that the legacy that they can see in the mark they left behind, which I think is an amazing thing.
What an amazing way to end. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Again, it was a highlight of my week. We're actually taping this on Thursday, and it was the highlight of my week, and I had a good week. So just to see these young men and women doing this kind of good work is really inspiring. So thank you.